I think the Russians blew it up.
So you think they blew up their own pipeline?
Yeah, I do.
Yes, I know.
Who do you think blew up the Nord Stream?
I don't know. I'm not so in this.
If Russia invades, that means tanks or troops crossing the border of Ukraine again. Then there will be no longer a Nord Stream 2. We will bring an end to it.
I'm Jeremy Lafredo for Rebel News in New York's Riverdale neighborhood. Not only did I go to university here, but it's here in Riverdale, behind a labyrinth of trees and Harry Potter-like mansions, that you'll find Russia's mission to the United Nations. Miles away from Midtown Manhattan and all of the other UN buildings, this building, referred to by residents as the Quiet Giant, is by far the tallest and most ominous structure in the quaint neighborhood of Riverdale. This white, reportedly spy-filled behemoth has survived all types of US-Russia relations throughout the years. From the Cold War, to the collapse of the Soviet Union, to the expelling of Russian diplomats that happened in the wake of Barack Obama's election, to the largely media intel fabricated narrative of Russiagate, which was the idea that Russia was behind the rise of former President Donald Trump. But now, what's happening inside the innermost hallways and conference rooms of this Russian diplomatic high-rise most likely concerns the latest alleged sabotage or attack against what was going to be the most precious asset of the Russian economy, the Nord Stream 2 pipeline, which carries valuable natural gas from Russia to Germany. Germany would have relied on these precious energy supplies as the cold winter approaches. The pipeline would have contributed billions upon billions of dollars to the Russian economy, and many people are wondering if the US attacked the pipeline, which is considered critical German civilian infrastructure, as part of the US proxy war against Russia. As soon as it happened, the Polish Prime Minister, the highest-ranking official in Poland, was quick to declare it a deliberate act of sabotage, undersea covert terrorism.
Today, we are also dealing with an act of sabotage. We do not know the details of what happened yet, but we can clearly see that it is an act of sabotage.
If we're looking for prime suspects, best first to consider who specifically threatened such attacks in the past. Earlier this year, President Joe Biden explained that if Russia were to go to war with Ukraine, he would take out the pipelines.
If Russia invades, that means tanks or troops crossing the border of Ukraine again. Then there will be no longer a Nord Stream 2. We will bring an end to it.
How will you do that exactly, since the project and control of the project is within Germany's control?
We will, I promise you, we'll be able to do it.
Maybe it's just a coincidence, but another high-ranking US official said the same exact thing. Victoria Nuland, an official at the State Department, explained that if Russia invades Ukraine, the pipeline will cease to deliver gas to Germany and also cease to support the Russian economy.
If Russia invades Ukraine, one way or another, Nord Stream 2 will not move forward.
In what makes it seem like a military attack against the pipeline was the unanimous US position. Senator Ron Johnson explained that the Biden administration needs to take action against Nord Stream that will prevent it from ever being operational.
I'm literally talking about rolling back the pipeline. And you can loosely define that, but I mean taking action that will prevent it from ever becoming operational.
On top of this, Radek Sikorski, a Polish politician, tweeted right after the pipelines blew up. He tweeted, "Thank you, USA." When attempting to discern which party is responsible for any type of attack, one question is more important than others. Who has the most to gain from the result of the attack? That answer is obvious. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken explained that the destruction of the Nord Stream pipeline provided the U.S. with a, quote, tremendous opportunity to once and for all eliminate European dependence on Russian energy and provide Europe with American natural gas.
This is also a tremendous opportunity. It's a tremendous opportunity to once and for all remove the dependence on Russian energy.
Historically, is there any precedent of this, or is it a uniquely Biden move to damn millions of innocent people to a cold and energy-scarce winter simply to punish Russia? Thomas Reed, a former U.S. Air Force secretary who was in Ronald Reagan's National Security Council, disclosed what he called just one example of the CIA's cold-eyed economic warfare against Moscow in a memoir he published in 2004. With the CIA's approval, Reed disclosed in his book that in 1982, the United States intelligence apparatus added a Trojan horse to pipeline management software that the Soviet Union obtained from a company in Canada. Quote, The pipeline software was supposed to control the pumps, turbines, and valves, and it was programmed to fail, resetting pump speeds and valve settings to produce pressures far above those accepted by the pipeline welds. The result was the most monumental non-nuclear explosion and fire ever seen from space. So pipeline attacks against Russia isn't far-fetched. It's happened before. Professor Jeffrey Sachs of Columbia University explained on Bloomberg News that he believed the attack was a collaborative action by the US and Poland, and explained experts that he speaks to overwhelmingly agree with him.
We also have a remarkable statement by Secretary Blinken last Friday in a press conference. He says, this is also a tremendous opportunity. It's a strange way to, it's a strange way to talk if you're worried about the piracy on international infrastructure of vital significance. So I know this runs counter to our narrative. You're not allowed to say these things in the West. But the fact of the matter is, all over the world, when I talk to people, they think the U.S. did it. And just to tell you, and by the way, even reporters on our papers that are involved tell me privately, yeah, well, of course, but it doesn't show up in our media.
Professor, I want to get into...
And what is the leader of Russia, Vladimir Putin, saying? He said that the unprecedented sabotage against Nord Stream gas pipelines was an act of international terrorism, and said the perpetrator is obvious. It's the United States and their allies.
It is likely that this is an act by Russia.
Apparent sabotage attempt from Russia.
The assessment is that Russia was behind it.
Russia is most likely behind this. I'm 99% certain of it.
Look, we don't know who did it. A lot of experts say Russia.
The Western press is expecting their non-critical viewers and readers to believe that Putin blew up his own pipeline. As many reasonable people have asserted, it's his own pipeline. He could turn it off. This unbelievable and politically advantageous story is becoming the dominant US narrative. So what do Americans think? I asked some New Yorkers.
Well, I guess the logical thing would be to assume that it's Russia. I mean, we don't have conclusive proof, I guess, but it would be in their interest to kind of blackmail Europe by cutting off their gas supply.
Why would it be in Russia's interest to blow up their own pipeline that they make billions of dollars from?
To force Europe to stop pressuring them in Ukraine.
Couldn't they just turn it off because it's their pipeline?
I suppose they could. I guess they could, yeah.
I think the Russians blew it up.
So you think they blew up their own pipeline?
Yeah, I do.
Yes, I know.
Who do you think blew up the Nord Stream?
I don't know. I'm not so in this scene.
What is the news saying?
As the news saying, Russia was it.
Do you believe it?
I'm not so sure.
I think that Russia has more to lose in the long run, so probably Russia. I highly doubt the Americans would do it, and I highly doubt the Europeans would do it.
So you think Russia attacked the pipeline?
Yeah, ultimately, as sort of revenge.
At this time, I don't know. Really, I don't know, because it's too far from Ukraine. And I don't think the Russian people will sabotage a 2 billion euro Nord Stream. It's too expensive for them to destroy it. So at this time, I don't know.
Oh, that's hard to tell, but I think Putin did.
For Rebel News in New York City, I'm Jeremy Lafreda. If you want to continue seeing the other side of the story, not the government narrative or the corporate media narrative, head to rebelnewsusa.com.